Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. What we're doing today is working on the structural steel components that are going in the house, because we've got guys coming in to help me start setting this block up. So I need to have all of this structural steel that I'm responsible for fabricating ready to go when they get here. What we've got to do is make embed plates that get cast into the concrete in the walls that hold up the I-beams that support the second floor joists. And I also have to fabricate the angle iron that wraps the inside of the stairwells in the main part of the house and then in the garage. And what I've got to do is weld what's called Nelson studs. This is a Nelson stud, and it gets welded on the plates and on the angle iron in a specific pattern, so that when you put it in your rebar cage for the column or put it on the decking for the second floor, the concrete casts around this, and then it basically makes it so it doesn't pull out unless the concrete disintegrates. The plates that we've got to make are 14 inches high by 16 inches wide, because the I-beam is 12 inches high by 12 inches wide, and the column this is going on is 16 inches wide. And the pattern we've got to put this in, there are 3 studs vertically and then 2 rows of those studs, and they lay out in basically 5.5 inches apart. They're 2 inches in on the long side and 1.5 inches in on the short side, and then center line and 5.5 inches, 5.5 inches. On the angle iron, when we get to that, they lay in 9 inches on center. And basically what it does is it just protects the edge of the concrete where the stairwell opening is, and it gives it a stop so the concrete doesn't just run over everywhere. So I'm going to set up, start marking these out, and then get ready to weld them on. All right, so that's my 1.5 inch line. Center line on the plate 7 inches. So I'm gonna mark a center line on it. And because we're gonna come in to match up with the 12-inch flange on that angle, or on that I-beam, so that basically everything is symmetrical and the loads match up, I need to come in 2 inches from these long edges. If I can use this metric square, Lord. There's our pattern. I don't know with the light if y'all can see that or not. The reason I'm doing this, when you handle the soapstone will wipe off, and it's easier to get a more permanent mark with a center punch. And while we want to be as accurate as possible, it's not totally vital. It's not like two machine surfaces are coming together here. Alright, now we get to start setting up and tack weld this together. So the other nice thing about putting that center mark on there, there's a little raised tip on these, because a lot of times they'll put these on with a gun, and that gives you a smaller surface area to start the weld. It's an electric welding stud gun, but it also gives you a nice place to get it centered up on your center punch mark. Well, the wire feeder's still set up from when I welded that column, so it ought to be hot enough to get good penetration. I may need to crank it up a little bit. So now I need to do the layout for the Nelson studs on this angle iron. The angle iron goes on the inside rim of the stairs in the house and the garage, as I mentioned previously. And these studs lay out on here every 9 inches. So there should be plenty of tie-in with the concrete. All right, these are 2 shorter pieces that go across the stair opening. And since they weren't called out in a detail on the drawings, it's kind of difficult to determine the exact length. So I'm not going to put a stud an inch from the end. I'm going to step in 9 inches and put the first stud, because I have a suspicion we're going to end up cutting these to fit. So one of the reasons I'm not really concerned about having one of these studs real close to the end is when we put this framework in position, it's going to get welded to the 12-foot pieces that I just put the studs on. So everything's going to be tied together. And this is way, way, way overkill. We were talking a little bit ago with my dad. We've done parts that have gone on dams and not had this much stuff going on with it. So, you know, these are every 9 inches, and we were putting pieces on dams and putting these studs on every 2 feet. So, I do not believe that it's going to go anywhere. Alright folks, I think that's going to wrap this video up for today. Thank you for watching, and y'all have a good day.